fellow travelers, welcome on in. This is the 137th level of the RPG Cave. I am one of your hosts, the level 199 Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined by the first time in a fortnight. By the level 199 elf battle alchemist, Dr. Garret.
Yes.
How's it going, Garret?
Doing good, man. You know, I should probably go away more often because apparently it becomes the best episodes ever of RPG Cave. According to Nagachaka, last week was the best episode ever. You know, I saw your Twitter. I saw you, Nagachaka. The best episode. Okay, all right.
Just calling him out, just straight up calling Nagachaka out.
No, I'm shuttering it out now. There we go. I'm done. So, but yeah, no, I'm doing good. How about you, Ryan?
That's good. I'm doing well. You know, the weather has been nice today, Garret. It was like 20 degrees outside. I wore shorts to work. It's great. It was a good time today.
You know, the weather's, it's always pretty good, but it was especially nice, these past few days here in Bay Area. Hold on, should I do 3 things before we go into the rigmarole?
We can, this show is our show, Garret.
Yeah,
we just make the rules that the cops don't care. We can do what we want.
Okay. Are we doing a side quest with Square Enix going multiply? Are we doing a side quest like that, or we just want to talk about it?
Want to.
Okay.
We make the rules.
We make the rules. Okay, Square Enix, major initiative, business decision. They are pushing all multi-platform, which is, pretty interesting to see. I guess, it was reading of the tea leaves, seeing the sales from exclusive games, and now they're pushing for multi-platform, trying to get more sales, more monies. It sounds like it was more of a financial call, so it's definitely more on the financial side. So there you go. That's a benefit to us, I think, more or less.
It makes 100% sense, Garret. I did it a long time ago, but it's like, it's weird to me that so many Square Enix games were Sony exclusive anyways. So I think this is nothing but good for Square Enix that they're doing this. Yeah.
I'm wondering if this is like even eliminating time exclusive deals or publishing deals.
This sounds like everything.
Sounds like everything. So
barring like an agreement that's already in place. So with Final Fantasy VII, the third one, whatever it's going to be calling.
That's a deal, yeah.
I think that might be the last of this because there might already be a deal in place for that.
Yeah, sounds good. So, that's kind of cool to hear, especially... I think I was a little worried about some games not even coming to Xbox, and of course we all have those worries. But it just sounds like now they're just kind of pushing it in all platforms, which is great. And PC, of course, being agnostic, great. I feel bad for those who are getting laid off at Square Enix. They are going through another round. It looks like on the indie and publisher side.
Yeah, they're announcing a lot of that stuff tonight, like overnight. So we're starting to see at least a little bit of that. But then I imagine most of that news is going to happen like 2 a.m. or something.
Yeah. So it's always rough to hear, and hopefully people will recover from that.
Absolutely.
And then number 2. This is a game I didn't know I was going to finish so quickly, but I had to do it. Fuga Melodies of Steel 2. I beat it in, I think, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was
you had to beat it before, for listeners out there, you had to beat it before it left Game Pass. That was the idea.
Yeah, no, the deadline was quick. It was May 15th. I beat it probably less than 2 weeks. Yeah, so it was really, really good. I was very if I like a game, I go through it pretty much quicker than what I do with other games. This one is a treat. I think I totally missed like a lot of stuff because I didn't play the first one. It is a direct sequel. It is a game made by CyberConnect 2. Is a turn-based, man, how do I describe it? It's like Child of Light. It's like that timeline-based sequence attack. It's turn-based, but it's also based on a timeline up above, and then you can delay enemies based on attacks or whatever. I love the storyline. It's pretty nice. The localization's a little wonky, but I kind of got over that. You make choices and decisions, and then depending on what you do, you can get a lot of your characters like permadeath. Like I had 3 or 4 characters that just died in my game, in my playthrough. And to get the tuning, you need to get all the kids all together. But yeah, no, overall, I really enjoyed this game. So
nice. And actually, I know that feeling, Garret, when if you're really enjoying a game, you're gonna kind of plow through it. In fact, that's gonna
Yeah.
That's gonna circle around again when we get to Nagachaka's question later in the show. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
So-
and also like that timeline you're kind of describing, Garrett, is kind of like the active time battle system from the Final Fantasy games in a lot of ways. In fact,
it definitely is.
Final Fantasy X specifically does like the line, kind of like what you're describing from Child of Light.
Yeah, it does. And then the third thing, of course, I have to bring this up: Trader Joe's brioche bread. Have you ever had that before? The brioche bread.
I've had brioche bread before, but
Not from Trader Joe's though.
But not for Trader Joe's because we don't have Trader Joe's in Canada.
Oh, okay. Well, it's so good. I'm just letting you know, it's delicious.
So whenever I come to the United States, Garrett, and I want good brioche bread, I know what
You
to
can
do.
go to Trader Joe's. Yeah, it's pretty cheap. Yeah. And then we get this biscotti. This oh man, I forgot. It's like salted butterscotch. I don't know, something cool like that. But you dip that in coffee, so good. Anyways, those are my recent favorite snacks from Trader Joe's. I just had to put that out. There you go.
I'm
Three
very
things.
jealous, Garrett. Very jealous, of course, of American food because I always get reminded of this every time we have other American hosts on the shows.
Yeah.
They're always talking about, like last on the PlayStation Drive this week, where we got a question about barbecue. And like I got so
BBQ,
jealous
yeah.
when Ron was telling me about all these cool barbecue places that are by him, and I'm just like, there's nothing around me because again, I live in Canada.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I actually went back to Texas last week. That's why I was out. I was there for my stepsister's wedding, and I had Texas barbecue, and it's amazing, of course.
So jealous.
Every time. And you know, it's one of those, like, you go to a place and you just smell the smoke. There's just smoking meats, open grill right in front of you. And you just tell them what you want as they're grilling it. It's just like, man, it's an experience for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like, that's one of the things, like, I miss about Texas, Garrett, is the food.
It is the food, yeah.
Definitely is, like, 100%, like, the thing that I love the most about Texas.
Yeah. Good Tex-Mex, too. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All around. Very good.
Garrett, since you of course brought three things, I'm gonna reference Garrett's three things from the last time you were here.
Okay.
We got an update on this because last time you were here, we talked about the Hatsune Miku Magic the Gathering crossover, which of course is very exciting, Garrett. And I mean, of course, I'm going to share it on the screen.
Of course you are.
Because I managed to pick these up today, Garrett, because they went on sale today.
Oh, nice.
So I'm so excited to get these cards in the mail. And there's going to be a super secret bonus card that comes along with it.
Super secret. I love it.
Exactly. We won't know what it is until it comes in the mail. So I'm very, very excited about this because I love Magic the Gathering. I actually played at a local event last week. I got to do like a commander night because my schedule was different last week. So I got to go out to my local game store and play some games, and it was super fun. And I can't wait to go back again with my Hatsune Miku cards, Garrett. And then
I want you to destroy. Now, it looks like these are different colors on this one. So I have to ask, are you just going to have to pick one or two to put in your deck?
So first of all, these all fit in the Naya color scheme, which is green, red, and white.
I see.
So you actually, and Naya decks or green, white, red decks are actually very common, especially in Commander. Or you can play 5 colors. You can play as many colors as you want, Garrett. That's kind of how Magic works. It's
I know.
Customizable in that way.
Yeah.
So you can actually, in theory, play all these in one deck. In fact, generally when they do these, what they refer to as secret layers, they generally theme the cards that they do so that they kind of fit in the same deck, because they kind of did the same thing with the Lara Croft one that they did like a couple months ago that I also picked up, that also like all the cards kind of can fit in a Lara Croft deck, and they're kind of designed to do that. So,
yeah,
you could definitely do that. I mean, these cards mostly don't synergize with each other, but you can technically play them together if you want to.
Okay, sounds good. And you know what? That's the pretty big advantage of Magic over, let's say, I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot, but there was definitely some shortcomings of the cards were so specific to decks that you have to have the deck like assembled in just the right way. And then it eventually just became super, super cheap. Like in terms of playing, like one deck would I can unleash all of this, stuff and win the game. Whereas it seems like Magic's much more malleable. with, you could kind of just pick and choose what you want in your deck.
And it depends on like the format too, because like Yu-Gi-Oh, the downfall of that is there's only one format for Yu-Gi-Oh, whereas Magic the Gathering has like 20 or 30 different formats, and they all have different decks that are kind of associated with them. Like Commander, which is the format I usually play, which is the most casual format. There's like 100 to 200 different types of decks that you can do. And they're all viable. So because it's a very casual format. So there's a lot of different options, including using Hatsune Miku cards or building a deck themed around Lara Croft Tomb Raider with Chun-Li and Blanca in your deck.
I love it.
Yeah, you can do all kinds of cool stuff. But anyways, that's Magic the Gathering. This is not a Magic the Gathering podcast. This is an RPG podcast. We're 11 minutes in, Garrett. We should probably, of course, clear the dungeon so we can get to the, of course, the raid boss as quickly as possible. I just flubbed up my line today, Garrett, because it's Monday. That's how this works. So if you like what we do and you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right now over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to hit that like button, kick that subscribe button, roll a d20, and let us know in the comments below, what did you roll on your d20? Did you get a critical hit? Did you get a critical miss? Did you just roll a 7 like someone
just
did last week?
Yep.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Or, if you want to talk about your RPG backlogs, that works too.
Okay.
Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to subscribe to us as well. Or, maybe leave us a nice Apple Podcast review. Maybe leave us a Spotify rating. You listen on those platforms. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming Cinematic Universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, just like Zig Ziggerson and Nick Creature did. We mentioned them on last week's show. But now they have officially joined the exclusive tier over the free trial. They were on the free trial last week. They've now joined the exclusive tier. So welcome on in, Zig Ziggerson and Nick Creature. Also, Brian Eck, who increased their support over on Patreon. And also Tech Mike, who is now a gold member.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yep. Up from the exclusive tier. I think Tech Mike was on before. So shout out to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. And of course, last but not least, we have our website, carpooledgaming.com, where we've got RPG Cave t-shirts, Xbox Drive t-shirts, PlayStation Drive t-shirts, those Nintendo Drive t-shirts if you really want one of those, as well as any other merch we got over there, carpoolgaming.com. Well, without further ado, Garrett, it is now time to read from the secret text. Also, I'm so glad you're back, Garrett. And you want to know why?
Why?
Because when I did the reading from the secret text thing last week, no one knew what to do.
No, they just didn't
stared
know.
at the camera, just like, what's going on here?
Yeah, these amateurs, these hooligans, thinking that they could just take over, but no, I go with the flow here. I know the cadence of this show. I have to slash, I have to smash. I have to show off a little bit visual. People who enjoy the audio, just really watch the first, 15 minutes of the show. We go crazy. In this,
you might not understand the Hatsune Miku Magic the Gathering reference if you don't watch the video.
You gotta look at the Hatsune Miku card designs. They look dope, so go for it.
Oh my God, Yarden was so disappointed last week too. Don't want to disappoint Yarden.
Can't do
Although, huge shout out both to Miles of Amanda and Savoy Prime for filling in for Garrett last week.
It was a great episode, for
sure. It was
sure.
actually really fun.
Yeah.
So, some might say, Garrett, the best episode ever.
Some might say, like Nagachaka, the best episode ever. He enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we should probably talk about our RPG backlogs, Garrett, because, it's no stranger. Garrett, you're no stranger to having a backlog.
Oh, no stranger at all.
We've been doing Garrett's backlog adventures now for almost a year.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's almost been a year since I assigned you Shining Force for the first time. Mm-hmm. So, of course, though, we're not talking about Garrett's backlog here, although we are going to talk about that a little bit. Because we're also going to talk about my backlog, because we're going to talk about our RPG backlogs. What games are on them? Is there any kind of plan as to how we're going to tackle these backlogs and whatnot? So we're gonna go through this now. First of all, Kevin Ainsworth chimes in with a question, Garrett.
Of course he is.
Tease this up.
Yeah.
Kevin Ainsworth over at Same the Game Media asks, "Hi guys, quick question from the press pool. What's a backlog? I keep seeing this term and I don't really understand what that means." Because get it, Garrett? Because Kevin just plays all the games. So he
He
doesn't have a
literally
backlog?
is like a machine, man. I think he has some reinforcement AI model in his brain and just goes for it. I applaud Kevin going through games very efficiently.
See,
Because
never-
I think genuinely I am slower at games on average, and then I just see Kevin like half my speed or something like that. He's there for efficiency, and he's there. I'm sure he enjoys it too. He has thoughts, for these games. I'm not saying he's like skipping around or whatever, but yeah, no, he's pretty efficient with his gaming. So
I mean,
good for
one
him.
might say this is the type of behavior of someone who doesn't have a job and is
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. We don't know. We
don't know.
Where's the employee verification? Like,
someone demand an employment letter from Kevin Ainsworth. Well, please don't do that.
do it now.
Please leave Kevin Ainsworth alone. He's a nice
Yeah.
guy.
Good kid.
Also, like I was on Project X Talk with him
Mm-hmm.
and Captain Logan last week, Garrett, and
Yeah.
I remember him talking. He rattled off like 4 different games he played, and I'm just like,
Of course he did.
It's so many. It's so many. Kevin.
Yeah.
It's too many. But although I'm kind of surprised Kevin says this because like I feel like even though he plays games pretty quickly, he probably has like a backlog of like an order of what games he's gonna play in
Yeah.
down the road. Like,
I'm sure there's like games that are on deck for him
Mm-hmm.
and like he wants to go through like just like every other person.
Yeah.
So it depends on, he has a great question. What's a backlog? Do we have a backlog definition, Ryan?
oh, hold on. I didn't expect this. I'm gonna have to go over to Webster's dictionary to get.
I'm wondering.
I've got it.
Okay, cool.
Backlog, noun, an
Noun.
accumulation of something, especially uncompleted work or matters that need to be dealt with.
That is an interesting definition. I don't like that last bit. The things that need to be dealt with. It's not, yeah, I know. It's more, I don't like unfinished either. So let's try to come up with our own backlog definition for gaming. This is your gaming backlog. So
I feel like the gaming backlog definition is the list of games that you want to hopefully play one day. Like that's how I define a game.
that's an interesting one. Okay.
Because then you're not putting constraints on it or anything like that. There's no hard feelings if you don't play those games.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the games that like almost like setting a goal for yourself, Garrett. Like these are the games I hope I beat one day or play through one day.
That's yeah. Okay. I'm gonna probably define that a little bit more for myself.
Okay.
For me personally, I think a gaming backlog is more of a list of games that you want to intend to play in the near term. And that near term can be any definition you want. You could say in a next month, you could say next year, you could say next 10 years. I just think there needs to be some sort of time constraint with it just because I do have a backlog of games I want to get to as far as priority. But there are definitely like games out that I have in my library. It's like I would like to get to it. I want to get to it, but I just know I would rather get other. So there's no constraint of time with that. And I don't consider that my backlog. I just consider that that's part of my games library and I'll get there when I get there. So I don't want to, have a endless backlog my list.
Yeah. That's a good way of
basically it.
doing it though, because that almost like pushes you to actually play through those games at some point.
Yeah. So I mean, mine's more of a priority, and then when really for me, it's a feeling like when I see a title in like a game, and it's just at the time and moments like, do you want to get to this now, or do you want to get to this like in the near term, or do you want to, hey, this is cool if I get to it, or whenever you feel like in the mood, but you don't feel like you're needing to get to it. So
Because I was gonna say, like even though I didn't have that in my definition, I definitely have like a ranking system as to like where I kind of rank, like how I order what games I play in, like what I'm most excited to play, and needs to kind of be played next versus what doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
Yarden asks a good question. Do you think you already need to own the game for it to be on your backlog?
I think that's a part of it, to be honest with you.
So I'm gonna put an asterisk on this, Garrett, because I agree with you, but I feel like you just need to have access to the game in order for it to be on your backlog. Because like there are certain games on my backlog, as an example, that I'm not going to go out and buy because they are Japanese only, and the only way to play them is with a translation patch. So, like, I still want those games to be on my backlog, but I'm not going to buy them, but I'm going to have access to them.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, access to them. All right, that sounds good. I'm fine with that definition. I think if I see a game and, like, okay, I want to get it, and I would like to play it, but I don't have time. I don't want to put in my backlog. I'm not going to buy this. And I'm thinking of just like a game that's out on Steam or something like that. That right. Current situation. So I wouldn't consider that in my backlog because I just did not buy it yet and I don't have access to it. So yeah, sure. That falls in line with that definition.
For sure. Because Yarden chimes in there with kind of the follow-up to this question. Just because some people say it's on their backlog, but I'll buy it when it's on sale. Yeah, I don't think that really counts. I feel like that's because, like, Stellar Blade's a good example. Like, that's a game that I really want to play, and it's kind of like on the periphery of my backlog, but I don't consider it on my backlog until I actually purchase that game, which I haven't yet.
Exactly. I think I'm on the same boat as you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think we link up a little bit here. Whereas, like, yeah, you're right. Like, if there's a lot of people out there that have backlogs, but then haven't purchased the game yet. Well, that doesn't count. It's like that's just a shopping list of games you want to go buy one day.
Exactly. Exactly. It's a future backlog if you buy it. So I'm cool with that.
And plus, if we didn't go that route, Garrett, we wouldn't be able to answer Rybo's question later in the show. So I feel like I need to cater to Rybo at least a little bit here.
All right, let's go to Rybo.
No, we're gonna get to that later.
Okay, sounds good.
That ties in.
Got it. Sounds good.
Anyways, we didn't really talk about this ahead of time as far as how many games we're gonna talk about that are on our backlogs or like what order we're gonna put in that. But I feel like we'll go through some games, Garrett. We'll talk about them. We'll talk about how long they've been on our backlogs and like how excited we are to maybe play some of these things. So I know for me, I'll start off and just tee things up a little bit here because one has been sitting on my backlog ever since it came out last August, Garrett, and it's been sitting there and staring me on the face to the point where I actually added it to
I know
JPEG that I put out earlier this year, Garrett, of the 10 games I'm going to beat this year that I haven't beaten before. And that's Sea of Stars.
Yep.
Because I never actually started Sea of Stars or anything like that. The furthest I got to playing Sea of Stars was installing it, Garrett. So, it's going to be played this year. I have already made it the mission, Garrett, to play it this year. And I'm going to have more time. I mean, when I finish 7 Rebirth, Garrett.
Eventually.
It'll be this month.
That's good.
I've put Final Fantasy 14 down for a while since my character is maxed out at this point, and there's literally nothing I can do until the expansion comes out. So I have lots more time for games over the next month and a half.
You just freed up 1,000 hours in a month for you.
I mean, well, actually, Garrett, you're kind of not wrong because I basically freed up 20 to 30 hours of gaming a week.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. With Final Fantasy 14, you got that daily grind going.
Yeah, which is why 7 Rebirth, I'm really plowing through that because just like you talked about earlier, I really really am enjoying that game. So I'm going through it pretty quickly. But I also have the opportunity to play a lot of these other games. And Sea of Stars is one of those games. I think it's it might be Sea of Stars' turn next month, early next month for me to actually jump in and play it and get through it hopefully before the 14 expansion comes out. That's its window, Garrett. That's the Sea of Stars' window.
I have a question for you. I guess maybe you haven't talked about it too much. I'm sure you love Chrono Trigger. I know you do.
I do.
And you love Super Mario RPG.
I like those games, but I'm not over the moon for them. Okay.
It is very much, I would say it's more inspired by Mario RPG than Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
That's my gut feeling. And just because of the mechanics of the battling system.
Well, that's the thing. One of my favorite things about the Mario RPGs, Garrett, are the mechanics. And not so much a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, it's a little wacky.
Yeah. It's too weird for me.
I'm sure you'll enjoy it, for sure.
Yeah. This is also Garrett, I don't have a lot of modern games on my backlog. Okay. A lot of modern games that I'm really interested in, I usually either play when they come out or around when they come out. So this is most of my games on my actual factual backlog are old games. So Prepare thyself for
I am preparing.
many old games I'm going to talk about later as we progress through this, my friend.
Sure. Sounds good.
Yeah. So Sea of Stars, I'm excited to play through it at some point. And there's like a definite plan. Like this is like near the top of my list of ones that are going to get played on the backlog. It's that and Link to the Past. Like those are the two that I really want to get through. But Link to the Past is a role-playing game, so we're not going to talk about it here.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of games that I looked at when I was looking through my libraries and everything. It's like, oh, that's a game I want to get to. That's not an RPG, though, so you got to, skip over that. So
yeah, we have to at least a little bit. Although, you know what, Garrett? I will allow shouting out games that aren't role-playing games on the show. Because you know what? We make the rules. Like, no one's going to call the cops on us. It's fine.
For sure. Yeah, no, totally get it. Yeah, I kind of, my strategy today was pretty lazy, but at the same time, I used to really develop my backlog. Like, oh, okay, what games do I have? What games have I played? Games I've completed? I think that was like, I don't know, 5 years ago. But now I'm just like, don't worry about it. Just don't even, just play whenever you're in the mood and get into the game whenever you feel like getting into a game. And I think I found more of that relaxing than anything else. Not having to worry about organization or having to beat something. Like, I gave up Dragon's Dogma 2. And it's not even just like, oh, I don't feel like I need to beat Dragon's Dogma 2. It's like I had my fill. Like, I think I'm good right now. I'm not in the mood to play it anymore. So let me just kind of put it in park right now, and I can always get back to it later. But what I did is like, okay, let me go through my Steam list, more or less, because I think most of my backlog is in Steam right now. Xbox has quite a bit of games, but more Game Pass games that I want to get to than anything. So I'll probably just put that to the side. But the first thing I really want to get to, and I'm most interested in, is Elden Ring.
Oh.
That's really at the top of my list. It's very close to what I want to play. So this, of course, everyone speaks about how highly of this. Of course, with the Soulsborne fans, I have tried Bloodborne, actually not too long ago, 2 years ago, I think. And I kind of just gave up in the middle because it was just a little too hard for me. It's just a little too stressful or whatever. But I want to give Elden Ring a try, for sure. I have it on my Steam, and of course it runs pretty well on Steam Deck and my laptop. So, and I hear it's the most accessible, and it's the most open world of all the Dark Souls games or Soulsborne games or whatever you want to call it. And so, yeah. And I hear you can kind of cheap out if you want to with some certain mechanics. So yeah, Elden Ring is pretty high on the list for me.
Ron Savoy Prime would be very proud of you because he's been trying to get everyone to play Elden Ring for forever. So like having someone else on the team play Elden Ring will get him very excited.
I know many people love that game, and I know the DLC is coming up. I probably will miss that mark, but dude, yeah, it looks really fun. So
the Elden Ring DLC will be like endgame stuff. Like that's usually how From Software does their stuff. So you don't have to worry about it because like you gotta get through the dang game first before you actually.
And I understand this one is like 100 hours of a game easily, but I just even just like going through 30 or 40 hours of it would be great to just to experience what the game's like. So
nice. Yeah. And actually like that, well, that's what I did with Elden Ring, where like I played it for like 35 hours. And then I kind of put it down because I wasn't enjoying it as much as I wanted to, but I definitely like agree with you when you said it before. Like it's definitely like the most approachable Souls game, especially because it's open world. So you can approach combat encounters from like any different angle. So it's actually like it's a lot easier to get into where you're not like forced down a corner to be like, oh, I have to just, pound my head against the wall for 2 hours against this particular boss because I can't go any further in the game if I don't do that.
Yeah, definitely. So super cool.
Yeah, it's really good about that. And Rybo, of course, chiming in, saying it's worth a gander. So there you go.
Now, okay, I've really tried the PC keyboard on these games because, I'm playing it on Steam and everything. I just don't get it. I have to have a controller in my hand. At least for the third person and first person stuff. I have to have a. I understand isometric games and like real time strategy games, keyboard and mouse, but man, I will definitely be playing a controller with this one.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's the kind of game where I'm like, yeah, no, thank you, no bueno. I do not want to do that.
I don't understand
keyboard.
It, but
no,
anyways,
too much.
Elden Ring.
It's a good game. It seems like a good first pick. Whereas me, Garrett, I'm gonna go super old school.
Oh dang! Of course you are.
We're gonna go all the way back to 1997 with the Sega Saturn game, Garrett, because of course we love the Sega Saturn here on the RPG Cave. Garrett knows lots about the Sega Saturn already.
Sure.
I mean, I like the Sega Saturn. Okay.
Sure. It sounds good.
But also, Garrett, I don't know if you knew this about me. I also really like anime.
Oh, you do? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So there's this really interesting and unique role-playing game on the Sega Saturn based off a really old anime that I think is actually pretty fun. And I've been wanting to play this game forever, Garrett, but owning a copy of this game is very expensive. It's like $1,000 game.
My goodness.
If you want to own a physical copy of it. So I will play this by other means. But that's Magical Knight Rayearth on the Sega Saturn. This is like
what's that last word?
Rayearth.
How do you spell that?
Rayearth. Rayearth.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I can't believe it either. So Magic Knight Rayearth, first of all, is another localized game from your favorite company, Garrett, Working Designs.
Of course it is.
The localization for of course, Lunar, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. But this is like an action RPG where you've got control of 3 different characters who have, different wizard abilities, and you have to kind of switch between them in order to get through environmental puzzles and stuff. It's a really interesting and cool looking game that I've always wanted to play, but it's always been way too expensive. And I was like, well, maybe one day, maybe I find it at a convention, maybe it goes down in price, maybe I find some way of attaining this within like realistic means, and I've just given up on this prospect.
Well, so it's Magic Knight Rayearth, like Rayearth. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing on eBay easily $1,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
What? How is it so expensive?
Well, because it's so rare. They basically made like 1,000 copies in North America of this game. Yeah, so it is a lost cause as far as buying this one, I think. So I've just given up, and I'm just like, I just finally want to instead of just sitting around waiting for the opportunity to own it, I just want to play it.
Is there I guess there's a a Western release. Is the English okay?
Well, it's a Working Designs game, Garrett. So
no.
No, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'm sure they learned stuff after Lunar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I'm just looking up like this. The first thing that pops up was Earth, like English translation patch improved.
Yeah.
So like.
Well, I was gonna say because this is something with all the Working Designs games is that that people out there are doing the unworking designs versions where they do like an actual fan translation instead over top of them. But but I want to play it with the Working Designs translation because I just want to know what it's like, Garrett. I want to know what it's like to play it as if I played it back, when it first came out on the Sega Saturn, like in North America. I just want to have that feeling to know what that was like. So this is one that again is on my JPEG that I posted at the beginning of the year. So this one's on the list to play this year, Garrett. It's Magic Knight Rayearth. I'm excited that one day down the road, like this fall, which is what I'm kind of slotting this in for, that I will have like a little like 5-minute thing at the beginning of one of our podcasts, Garrett, where I just talk to you about Magic Knight Rayearth, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah, no, you're one of the 7 people that has ever. Oh, well, I'm sure there's more people that have played it, but
I was just gonna say, like, this is one of those games where a lot of people played it, like, not
at the time,
actual copies, but they played it through.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm sure if they're into the anime, then they'll play it.
Exactly. And I mean, there's a bunch of Magic Knight Rayearth games because I've played the Game Gear Magic Knight Rayearth game, but it's completely different. And they made it for a bunch of different platforms as well. There's like a couple Game Boy Magic Knight Rayearth games and stuff. So yeah, I mean the mix of not like tongue-in-cheek 90s anime combined with like an old school role-playing aesthetic. Yes, please sign me up. That's a Ryan Turford game if I've ever heard of one.
Yeah, definitely. So there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that one's near the top of my backlog. I'm excited to play it at some point. And again, I have an actual plan of when that's gonna happen. Maybe that's the kind of game also I kind of want to play on stream as well. Like have people actually watch me play that game.
Yeah. I like you playing these pretty niche games. For the rest of us that doesn't just know these games at all, especially these Sega games. I'm sure they're into the anime. Thank you, Lachlan, for the quote. I'm sure they are into the anime.
Put that quote on a T-shirt. That's
yes,
what we
I
need
love
right
it.
now.
RPG Cave. All right.
Give me another one.
Yeah, okay. Another one that's like easily over 100-hour game again. And, these are like... I'm not going to do this like both of them this year or whatever, but these are at the top of my list. Persona 5 Royal is a game I really want to get to. As I said before, Persona 5 I've played a while ago now, 2017. So it's been a few years, of course. I've had my fill with Persona 3 Reload in terms of Persona games right now, so I'm not like having this emptiness with it. But I think with Persona 6 being announced imminently, probably later this year, just see the time scale of that, I think I'll play 5 Royal. I would say late this year or early next year. And just really get into it because I do want to get through this enhanced version and this new story, the new character, new quality of life improvements. I certainly miss the mainline game a lot. And I've played, the spin-offs and many others. Of course, Persona 3 Reload was fantastic as well, but I just want to get back into the 5 groove and with my Phantom Thieves. I definitely would like to get to Persona 5 Royal, but I think it's really timely for me because it's not Elden Ring, right? Because this is a game I need to finish. Right. It's a story, a beginning, middle, end. Whereas Elden Ring's like, maybe I'll go, however far I want to go. But this one is like, I need to finish it, and that'll be easily 120 hours at least. For me.
Well, I was gonna say because Elden Ring, you're playing it just to experience it, just to know that you at least played it. Whereas this is like you need to go through the whole thing. And when I played through it, Garrett, it was 125 hours. So
my goodness, yeah. So
it's a
I'm
lot.
ready. I need to be ready for it. It's like one of those like, okay, I don't have any games that are gonna block me out during the next. I would say 3 or 4 months. Like it's one of those like maybe a small game here and there during those 3 or 4 months, but yeah, I gotta be prepared if I want to get into that game. So
you have to make sure like the board is clear that there's nothing else you want to play, so you can kind of focus on it. Yeah,
totally.
But Garrett, now that, since you brought up Persona and being kind of persona'd like out a little bit at the moment, did you see the news this week that they're gonna make Persona an annual franchise?
I did not see that. So, okay, that's interesting.
Sega talked about it where they're like, we have 3 franchises. We're going after we've seen the success. They're going to be yearly franchises through remasters or remakes or
I may have
brand
heard
new
of it.
entries.
Yeah.
So one of them was Sonic.
Yeah.
One of them was Yakuza.
Yakuza. Yeah.
And then Persona was the third one.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I can understand it with just the spin-offs and the remakes that they can do. I want to see a Persona 1 or 2 remake. I'm sure that's imminent too.
Yeah. We've been hearing a lot about that.
I think they really are shining Persona a lot more in the West than anything else. I think they're kind of surprised how popular it's getting in the West compared to Japan.
No, Like a Dragon's the same way, because that's
Like a Dragon
I think
too,
it's like way more popular in the U.S. now than Japan, actually, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So I'm here for it. I'm glad they're doubling down on that content. So those are the 3 franchises they want to go.
Those are the 3 that they outlined. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be other franchises that they annualize down the road, but those are like the 3 that they specifically called out by name.
Got it. Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Because I know, first of all, we know that Sega has like 10 other games that they're working on right now. Because we got like all those revivals of those old franchises that they announced at Summer Game Fest last year.
Yeah.
Sega
has
the Golden
a lot.
Axe remake, the reboot, the Jet Set Radio reboot, like all those
Crazy
are still
Taxi.
coming too. Crazy Taxi. I think some of those are going to come out this year too. So, I mean, I think we're going to see those games sooner rather than later.
That'll be interesting. Okay. Persona is I'm glad they're recognizing as one of their tentpole franchises, along with Sonic. That's we brat on Sonic a lot because Sonic is terrible. We objectively we all know that, but it is popular. So
do we all know that? Because I actually kind of like Sonic games.
No, you don't. Okay,
I do. First of all, I liked Sonic Superstars. I liked Sonic Frontiers. I like Sonic Mania. I love Sonic CD. I love the
Sonic Frontiers the latest one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, Sonic Superstars came out last October, which was that was like the 2D platforming game. Mm-hmm. That, of course, came out the same day as Mario Wonder, and of course got crushed because everyone forgets that game even came out last year.
Yeah. So okay, cool.
Yeah, the other thing I'm worried about with Persona being annualized is like getting Persona'd out, like getting like too many Persona releases, because like too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
Yeah, when I see Yakuza series itself, and they do a lot with that franchise, and it intimidates me. So I can only imagine another person looking at the Persona series that has not touched the Persona series. I can totally understand seeing this. I don't know, at least a 60-hour RPG, and it's just like, man, this is a lot.
Well, it probably opens the door for stuff like Tactica last year, or like
which was super cool.
Yeah.
At the same time, it is like these are spinoffs that it would be cool that new players would play, but inherently that they probably wouldn't play first.
Yeah.
Because you need to have that context of Persona 5 in general.
100%. That's because they're not going to jump in to Persona 5 Tactica if they haven't played Persona 5. Just that's not how that works. But anyways, we got off track, Garrett. We should probably resume our backlog talks, talking about backlogs, because I'm going to bring another modern game into this that Kevin Ainsworth has been bugging me about. Like, when am I going to finish this game? When am I going to finish this game so we can talk about it? That game being Unicorn Overlord, because I haven't finished it yet. But
you got to finish that one.
I put it on the back to the backlog, Garrett. I regaled it back to the backlog because I need to finish like those last like 5 missions in order to finish the game. So Unicorn Overlord is like, I think is probably the next thing I do when 7 Rebirth is done. Because I can clean that up pretty quickly at this point, right? So
yeah. Cool.
So I think that's kind of the next one, but I cheaped out a little bit with that one, Garrett. So I'm going to give you.
That's a quick backlog one.
Yeah. Well, I want to give you my one of my other modern game shoutouts here, and one of the last ones I got on this list, and this is one that I basically played for like an hour, and then put it down, and I was like, I'm not in the mood for this right now, but I want to circle back to this one at some point, and that's Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Oh, that's in my backlog too.
The strategy role-playing Marvel game. Because I thought that game was super fun when I played it for like the hour and a half that I played it. But I could tell it was going to be a long game. And just when I picked it up, I just wasn't, like you talked about it before. It's like it was a mood thing. I just wasn't in the mood to sit down every night and play through Marvel's Midnight Suns. So I did the right thing, I think, and kind of put it to the back burner. The problem is, Garrett, I don't have an outline or a specific date to say like, when I'm going to play this game. I just know that I want to.
And that's okay. The same thing with me. I think Marvel Midnight Suns, I think it has an interesting dilemma, because it's kind of the first of its, well, I wouldn't say first of its kind, but really like, it's first of, for the Marvel franchise, you don't really see this in terms of its genre, but it's good. A lot of people thought this was not going to be good, or at least okay, like a strong 7 out of 10 or whatever. But no, this game is apparently phenomenal. It has some great things going for it, and I definitely want to try it out. But as you said, it's just like, when do I get to this? I'm not the biggest Marvel fan too. I'm not like, I've watched the movies, but that's pretty much it. I'm not obsessed over the heroes or the characters or whatever. So it's kind of just harder to like gauge when to get into this game. But I think, when I'm in the mood, I'll definitely I'll be there for sure.
Because I'm like you, Garrett. Even though I'm wearing a Marvel shirt, because I'm wearing a Black Widow.
Oh yeah,
t-shirt,
you are.
You know, even though I'm wearing a Black Widow t-shirt, I'm not like I'm like you. I'm not like super into Marvel. Like I like Marvel stuff a lot, but I'm not like over the moon for Marvel.
I'm not reading comics weekly.
Yeah.
On my latest superheroes or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like I know in my heart of hearts that one day I'm just going to be in the mood for this game, and that's when I'll play it. And like that's kind of where I've kind of regaled Marvel's Midnight Suns to people. Where it's like I know I'm just going to wake up one day and be like, all right, it's time. I got to play it.
I mean, that's why I have it installed on my Steam Deck. Like I just know one day I'm just gonna be, all right, this is the time, this is the game, let's go.
Yeah,
So,
I did the same thing actually with my PS5. It's just it
nice.
stays permanently installed.
Nice. Yeah. Cool.
One day, my friend, we will play. You know what, Garrett? Maybe one day we make it like part of Garrett's backlog adventure, and we both play it.
That'd be cool. And just talk about it. Yeah, just in general, our journey. That would be cool.
That'd be fun. All right, give me another one, man.
So I got a smaller game, and I actually recently got this, and because I wanted to support the devs in general. That's why I wanted to get a really day one. But it's a smaller game, Wargroove 2. I played the first one on Nintendo Switch. Fantastic, kind of turn-based tactics game, very similar to Advance Wars. It's a spiritual successor, a lot of inspiration coming from Advance Wars. It has, currency, and then you have certain buildings where you build units out. It's similar teams, but you got this like big hero or whatever that has different abilities for different teams. It looks like pretty much an extension of the first one. But this is one of those games like I gotta kind of be in the mood to get back into it. Again, because I did play through Wargroove 1. It was fantastic, but it does take a long time to get through it. So, yeah, Wargroove 2 is number 3 in my backlog.
Nice. Yeah, that's
pretty
one
much
where
close
like,
to the top.
I remember like you being really excited about it. So I'm actually kind of surprised you just never got around to it.
No, it's hard, dude. The timing of it, it's just, it's always hard. I'm staring at, so many games in the face. It's just like, yeah, I really want to get to it. It's just like when it's not going to be now. Yeah. So let's put it in the back.
It also doesn't help that I keep giving you an increasingly silly list of games to play that you have to devote time to as well.
Lunar. I'm just kidding.
Oh, come on. You like that game. It's fine.
The Haagen-Dazs.
You know what, Garrett? I haven't given you a bad game yet. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
You should wait.
Keep it that way.
You know what? If you want a bad role-playing game, I can give you one.
No, don't do that, please. No, don't torture me.
Because Lunar has a Nintendo DS sequel, and it might be one of the worst games I've ever played in my entire life. So,
oh, okay. Yeah, don't give me that one.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Garrett. In that game, if you run, it hurts you. Your character moves like very, very slowly, and so in order to get around quickly, you have to run. But running just drains your health as you use it. So you maybe run like 10 steps before you go down to like 1 health.
That's terrible.
Exactly.
No one should design that.
I don't know. Lockless says it's like real life. So
that should be a taboo. Seriously. Like that's like, no, I'm good.
That is one of the worst RPG mechanics I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
It's like literally poison in Pokemon, but permanently.
Yeah.
Whenever I get poisoned, it's just terrible and you have to fix it as soon as possible. So
yeah. There's a reason why that game has like a Metacritic rating of a 4.
Yikes.
Yeah.
It's rough.
It's rough. Anyways, okay. Garrett. Enough about bad games. Like, give me another one of your games, man.
Oh, yeah, sure. Sounds good. Hold on. Let me look at it. Oh, actually, this one pretty
you just gave me one. What am I
I did give you one, but you gave me 2 as well.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, fair enough.
Let me just, go through this real quick. Mass Effect Trilogy is one that's been in there. It's been, everyone's been harping on me to go through these games.
I'm making a mental note of this moment right now.
Yeah, put in the RPG Backlog Adventure.
It's gonna be there.
In some point. In its trilogy, you got to put 3 games in one.
I can't let this stand that you haven't played those games.
I know. And I guess, it's so interesting. BioWare, I wish I was into it at that time because it was prime time for me. I was in high school, like with all these games coming out. I think I was the prime candidate to play these games. I just didn't. I just totally missed it. The Dragon Age games and the Mass Effect games. So I hear it's good.
Yeah.
I hear it's great. So
It is. In fact, we've got a new Dragon Age game coming out this year, which is going to be interesting.
Is it this year?
It is supposed to be this year, this fall.
We'll see.
We're going to see it at EA's thing soon.
Oh, okay.
Which
Sounds
is
good.
exciting. I mean,
The
Jeff Grubb
Dreadwolf.
keeps saying it's coming out this year, so I believe in Jeff Grubb. I'm going to wear one.
I'm morbidly curious about that game. So there you go.
Oh, I actually think they're going to probably frame it in such a way where if you're someone who's new, because they wrapped up kind of the trilogy of games with the last one. I think that's going to be a game that's going to be totally fine for people who are brand new to Dragon Age.
Yeah. Cool. Sounds good. There you go.
This cannot stand. If Sean Capri was here right now, Garrett, he would be giving you the sign.
He'll be yelling at me right now.
He'd just be like, "What? Why haven't you played Mass Effect, Garrett?" But in fact, I'm just also saying this to kind of see if Sean is actually in the chat, because maybe he'll actually chime in. But anyways, moving on. I'm gonna give kind of my last larger one that I really want to tackle this year.
Okay.
And then I'll give you one more, and then we'll kind of give our honorable mentions, kind of for the sake of time, because we got a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So my last one is actually the game series that's on the thumbnail of this particular episode.
Okay.
That is the Shadow Hearts games on the PlayStation 2. Now, I've talked about these games on the show. They're basically turn-based role-playing games that take place in a fictional 1920s, but it's all fantasy style. So it's a mixture of fantasy and 1920s culture, Garrett. So
I like it.
Yeah, and it's got this really unique combat system with because it's turn-based, but it uses what's called the judgment wheel, where when your character does an attack, you then the wheel kind of spins, and you have to time the wheel depending on what action you want to take with your character. So it makes you feel more involved in the battles in the same way that the Mario RPGs do.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people in our community have played at least one of these games and have been really into it. And I have at least tried Shadow Hearts before. But I kind of put it down, Shadow Hearts, the first one. But just put it down because again, similar to my last example, I just wasn't in the mood for it at the time. But this is the year where I've decided I am playing at least the first Shadow Hearts game, if not going as far into the trilogy as I can. Because there's 3 of these on the PlayStation 2, and they're all awesome from what I hear. So I am very excited to play these games at some point. They've got a great story, cool cast of characters, cool combat system, just unique design. I'm really interested to play these games.
Cool. Awesome. I hear from you and from other people that these games are great.
Yeah.
I wish they were. Well, are they playable on PS5? Are they? Can you buy them?
Only on the PlayStation 2.
Okay.
They live there, and I don't think
They'll die
ever
there.
get a re-release ever.
Where are they published by?
They are published by Universal Entertainment, but also Midway Games. So
Okay.
Although actually, I'm reading through this. I guess Xseed actually owns the license currently.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that would be.
So maybe they get a re-release, but I feel like if they were going to get a re-release, that would have happened already.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True.
So I'm just going to play them on the PS2, and I love playing games on the PS2. So I'm actually pretty excited to play them there.
Cool. Sounds good. Yeah. All right. Are we doing last game here?
Yeah, last game, and then we'll do honorable mentions.
Yeah, sounds good.
Because we could probably go all day. Because I don't know what you get,
no joke.
But my
have
backlog
so many.
has actually got a lot of games on it.
Yeah, I know. No, it's too much. And that's just me looking at the Steam library. I didn't even look at really did a comprehensive look at everything.
Yeah.
Next thing I really want to get into, and I've had it for a while, is Dannohh Chronicles.
Yes.
I really enjoyed the demo of that game. Going through it now, it's kind of unique because it's a real-time strategy game, but it kind of pauses and you could do certain actions as well, and I actually kind of like that type of mechanic. You see that a lot with Transistor and other RPGs that I really, really enjoy. And so, yeah, that's one I really want to get to. And I'm glad I waited because they did have an update with it, with some enhancements and quality of life improvements. So, yeah, and I have it on Steam Deck, ready to go, ready to install. So there you go, Dannohh Chronicles. Had to put a Square Enix game in here for sure. There's many other Square Enix games that are in the backlog, but this one's near the top of my list for sure.
Okay, nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about it before after I finish that game. But like, I feel like that's like the type of game that I think you're going to actually really like. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I feel like that's a very much a Garret game in a lot of ways. And yeah, you're actually picking the perfect time because number one, as you mentioned, there's a bunch of improvements to the gameplay and the visuals, but also they added free DLC, like a free DLC, free expansion that takes place like that's almost like a side story that's happening while like the main story's happening. That you just get to play and experience as part of the game.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, Kevin Ainsworth and I are both gonna be so happy when you play that game finally. Because like we were talking about it on Project X Talk this week, but like we were like the two people that actually played that game that actually enjoyed it. So,
yeah, I feel like not a lot of people played this one, so
Yeah.
I am excited to get through.
Well, that goes to like the stuff you were talking about with Square earlier, where it's like a lot of their games just they tried a bunch of different stuff. And it all mostly failed because most of it just, even though the games were good, they just didn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And, you know, I'm glad we're discussing all this backlog stuff now because I really feel like for the next few months, I'm not going to get a new game. There's Super Mario, not Super Mario, Paper Mario, The Thousand Year Door coming out soon, but that's one of those games like, okay, I would like to get it, but if I get it, I won't play it day one. So let me just not have to worry about it right now and just focus on my backlog. So I think really from now till, I don't know, Avowed, we just don't know the date for that. What's the next Metaphor?
He just said fall, by the way. So we know fall for Avowed. So I'm imagining that's September, or October.
Maybe. And then Metaphor, ReFantazio. So really the fall, it's going to hit me back hard.
Metaphor is on October. We already have the release date for that. So yeah. In fact, like that's going to come into shape in the next couple of weeks, Garrett, because we're going to have we're less than a month away from quote unquote E3.
The summer. I still think it's January sometimes because it's just like time flies. But yeah, you're right. Yeah. It's mid-May.
Because we keep hearing like a state of play might be happening this week or next week, which is going to cue things off. And then we know like Nintendo and Microsoft and Summer Game Fest are all going to be a thing. So I think we're doing a bunch of announcements. Also, we just got the trailer date for Assassin's Creed Shadows today, which is like the next Assassin's Creed RPG style game.
I'm excited.
So I'm like if you take the Assassin's Creed RPG style and combine it with Japan, that's like yes, sign me up.
You know what you get, Ryan? You get Ghost of Tsushima. That's what you get.
No, but more of a role playing game than
Tsushima. No, I get it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
like we'll actually be able to talk about it on the show because it technically is a role playing game.
I would be, I love Assassin's Creed series. I really enjoyed the old format, and I love the new format. It's just very bloated, so it's very hard for me to go through. And I do want to get to Mirage at some point, but yeah, maybe this one will hook me back in. Yeah,
I feel like Odyssey, they nailed like the exact formula of like how long it should be with how like what kind of filler there is in the open world. Like that was like the perfect recipe for how long a game like that should be. Whereas Valhalla, to your point, Garrett, it was too overbloated with stuff. And Origins, I felt like it was a little too short, but I still really enjoyed it.
Oh, I loved perfect length for me. Origins was pretty good. I think what I don't care for in Origins, it felt very samey in the middle. Like, yeah. And that's just kind of these formats too. So, but anyways, cool. Exciting. I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Well, let's finish off our backlogs, Garrett, by talking about just our honorable mentions.
Sure.
Real quick. Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh my gosh, I got to put that in my list.
I've been wanting to play that ever since like the Phantom Liberty update came out last year, Garrett. But there's been so many games since that came out.
So many games
that I just I could not justify finding the time to play that. But that has not left my mind. I do want to play it at some point. Another one is the Grow Lancer series on the PlayStation 2.
That would be cool.
Yeah, we talked about those before on the show. Those are like turn-based role-playing games. They're in the Landgresser universe, which of course was an old Sega franchise.
And I like the demo for Landgresser. And so for people who don't know, that's really like it's a Fire Emblem clone, more or less.
Yeah, but there's just like infinitely more units.
Yeah, there's a lot more units involved. Yeah, so go check out. I know Landgresser 1 and 2, the remake of it is on sale like constantly. Yeah. So
and it's on everything but Xbox. So
yeah, and it's
I like
pretty
that.
good.
I like
it.
those games because I've played Landgressor 1 and 2, but I haven't played the Grow Lancer games, which is like the spin-off that they did on the PlayStation 2.
Got it.
But I have all those games, so I do want to play them at some point. Just like the Xenosaga games, Garrett.
Yeah.
I do want to play those at
too.
some point, but that's also a big ask because those games are all very long. So,
And they're lost. They're forgotten kind of games. I don't think you'll see any kind of remake.
You never know, but I have given up hope that Nintendo will strike a deal with Bandai Namco to re-release them.
Yeah.
At this point, maybe Switch 2, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
And the last one I want to mention is the Dot Hack series on the PlayStation 2.
That's true.
That's another series that I've wanted to get into for a while. I love MMOs, so having like almost like an offline like fake MMO with a cool story, I think is like really interesting. So I'm really excited to get into that. Plus, I liked the Dot Hack animes, so I'm excited to play that quadrilogy on the PS2 at some point.
My
There's
goodness.
4 of them, but I decided that this year I want to at least play the first one.
Yeah, is the first one the most I guess the most up to date and recognizable one? I get Dot Hack GU or whatever.
So there's Dot Hack GU, which is its own trilogy.
But
then there's just the Dot Hack quadrilogy.
I
Because there were
see.
7 of them on the PlayStation 2.
Okay. Well, the one that's constantly on sale is Dot Hack GU, right? And that's is that a trilogy or is that
That's a trilogy, yeah.
I see. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and that takes place after the Dot Hack PS2 games.
Okay. Cool.
So in a lot of ways, you kind of need to know what happens there. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, they do explain it what happens a little bit in those games, so that you're not totally lost. But yeah, like I'm excited. I want to play those games at some point. Plus, the best part is, Garrett, those games come with a second disc that's just an anime that you watch as like a companion to the game, because like, the what you play in the game is what the characters are doing in the game world, but then the DVD is so that you can see what the characters are doing in the real world outside of the game.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. Really unique concept for a game. And plus, it's like the Mass Effect trilogy where your save carries over between all 4 games.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
But
those aren't ported over. That's still kind of stuck in
still on the PS2.
That's interesting that they updated one series but not the other.
Yeah, they updated the sequel series, but not the first 4. Especially because like Dot Hack, the 4th one, I think it's Quarantine. That one is like stupidly expensive. It's like $200 to $300. So
my goodness,
it's expensive. But I have a copy of it, so I can play it.
Cool.
But what about you, Garrett?
All right. Well, I'm not gonna prolong this much more. I'm just gonna kind of give you a list, and if one jumps out at you, you can react to it. So, Chrono Cross, that's another one on my list. Yep. Crosscode, that's another one on my list. Yeah. Disgaea 5. That's one I've been wanting to get to for the longest time. And then Final Fantasy VI. I'm sure that will be in my backlog adventures eventually. Of course, I have to put in a Falcom game because I need to, put my feet in the water somehow.
You're just trying to appease Kevin and Ron. I see what you're doing here.
Pretty much. Trails in the Sky. That would be the first one I would get to. The Ni no Kunis, I actually played a good bit of the first one on Switch, but I would like to get back to it. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, and then Tales of Arise. That's also big on my list. Ys 8, another big, I don't know, Falcom game
that's
or
2
whatever.
for Falcom right there.
Yeah, I know, right? And okay. And on the Switch, I have 2 big ones. Dragon Quest 11.
Okay.
And then Tokyo Mirage Sessions. So
that's good too.
Yeah, I played a good bit of Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I would like to get back to, but yeah, those are kind of like. So those are like the big RPGs that I would like to get to at some point. Not in the I'm definitely not gonna play all this in 1 year. It's gonna be like I would sprinkle on here and there as I play new games. But of course, there's many more I would like to play. But keep it as a tight list. That's it. So yeah,
you got to keep it manageable, Garrett, as the kids might say. Mm-hmm. But that's a good list of games. Like I think like if you play through all those, Garrett, you're gonna really enjoy them. But,
yeah, it's very distilled. I don't want to. There's a lot of games that we have in general, but they're just kind of more the B-rated, C-rated tier games, and you just have it just to have it. But these are the ones that required playing, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a good one. I think next year, Garrett, what I kind of want to do around this time next year, maybe do another one of these episodes
For sure.
and see how our backlogs have progressed. What games we've played, what games are still in the backlog, what's moved up or down the list.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know.
And see what additional games we've added to the backlog.
It could be anything.
Could be anything.
Mm-hmm. But let's get to some of these questions, Garrett, or else we're going to be here all night. So we're going to start with Nagachaka, who says, "Hi there. I've been tackling this little RPG title for 3 months now, called Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm almost at the halfway point for the Platinum trophies. Besides getting good, any other suggestions of how I can speed things up? I'm pretty sure Ryan is at the same chapter as me. I am. And I love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but Persona 3 Reload is calling to me." Now, Kevin Ainsworth pointed down the Discord saying he knows a way of doing this, which is really just forgetting about the Platinum trophy and just mainlining it at this point.
Sure.
Which is actually so I'm not doing exactly that, but I came into this knowing that I wouldn't go for the Platinum trophy.
Right.
So I'm not doing all the Platinum trophy stuff that Nagachaka is doing, because a lot of that is you have to do in every open world activity and every mini game in the game, which there's a bajillion of in this game, Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
You have to hit the top rating or the S rating in order to get the Platinum trophy. On top of then going back and playing the game on hard mode and then doing a couple other things on top of all that. So it's
and he hasn't been in the game once.
No, he hasn't. But you want to to my point, you want to do all that mini game stuff first before you play through the game on hard mode, because otherwise you have to do all those mini games on hard mode and
that's terrible.
Get the top rank. No, you don't want to do that. That's the wrong strategy. So I actually think Nagachaka, one way you could speed things up a little bit is actually bumping down the difficulty to easy, because you're going to be playing the game on hard mode anyways with the second playthrough. Have the first playthrough be like the easier playthrough, and then you max out all the mini games and stuff like that. So then when you do hard mode, you're really just focusing on mainlining the game and just dealing with that at the hardest difficulty.
So
and
changing the difficulty changes the difficulty of the mini games too.
So they don't, at least with most of them, unless you bump it up to hard mode, and then they actually get harder.
I see.
But if you go normal or below from most non-combat mini games, they're exactly the same.
I see.
There are some of these mini games that are like these open world hunts that you have to kill a specific monster for, and those are much easier if the game is on easy.
I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So there are advantages to doing that, especially because I could see the pride thing coming in, oh, I want to play it on normal and stuff like that. But if you're already planning on playing it on hard, why torture? Why do you need to play it on normal and then hard? If you want to actually speed up the process a little bit.
Yeah, if you want to be as efficient as possible with this, that's a good suggestion. I also, this Platinum trophy chase, I've been, I kind of get into this mode a little bit, especially with Persona 3 Reload. And you just got to have a nice balance with this, because you really don't want that part of it consume your enjoyment of the game as well. I know I know it's a great set goal of getting a Platinum trophy for this game is a feat, and you can say that you did it, you've championed it, you championed the game. But yeah, at the same time, it's just it's fine to not do it too, as Kevin has mentioned. Now, do what you want and have fun with it. So yeah, go for the Platinum trophy. If that's still your goal, that's great.
I was going to say, if you're enjoying the Platinum path, then you should just keep doing what you're doing, even if it takes you longer. Don't worry about me going faster than you, Nagachaka. Don't.
That's another thing. On average, for me, I am always slower than another person, and through a game, just in general, and that's just how I play.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't think of someone else going faster than you, meaning that you are like you're not doing as well at a game or anything like
If
that.
anything, like when I really focus on a game, Garrett, I find like I'm usually like Kevin Ainsworth levels of fast with
Yeah,
games.
exactly.
So like I can get through games very quickly if I put my mind to it. But I'm not distracted by Final Fantasy 14 essentially is how
basically.
that usually turns out. So yeah, it's just one of those things, Nagachaka, where don't get too down on it. Like if I pass you, it's fine. We're playing the game very differently, and that's just bound to happen, and that's okay.
Also, I just want to mention, once you like kind of give up on your goal or path and you want to go to a new game or a different game, just know you're losing all of the mindset and your kind of what's it called? You're not your
Muscle memory?
Muscle memory. That's it. You're losing the muscle memory as you play another game.
Yeah.
So I would really like if your platinum's your goal, you should really stick to it and not really teeter off and like try a different big RPG, because that will just make the struggle to a platinum trophy for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth much harder.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's at certain points actually one example is Prey. Like I played Prey for 5 hours last year, and now I'm going through it now. It's like I gotta not start here. I gotta restart this game because it takes a little bit to ease into that game. So it's same thing here. Just
I will also tell you, Garrett. We were talking about Unicorn Overlord. That's my fear if I wait too long with that game.
exactly.
I'm gonna hop in and be like, I don't even know where I am anymore. I'm gonna have to start over, even though I'm pretty close to the end. So
Yeah.
I can't leave that game for too long, I think. But anyways, next question comes to us from Ryu, who asks, what are some older RPGs from the 90s or 2000s that have aged well and hold up today? What do you think allows them to have aged so well? Or what are some RPGs from that time period that don't hold up well, and what stops them from holding up? I already know Garrett has an answer for that one. Probably.
Well, 90s and thousands is an interesting time period. You can honestly argue those are two different time periods.
100%. They couldn't be
Yeah.
more different. Like, and especially like depending on how far up on the 2000 scale you get versus going all the way back to the early 90s, like very, very
It could be
different.
very different, yeah. And so I think what aged really well is more. I think it's more, of course, the 2D pixelated RPGs. I think in shorter RPGs, I think they aged pretty well. At the same time, you kind of need a guide for them on certain specific ones. But let me think about it. So
I was going to say, Garrett, I would argue on most of them, you probably need a guide of some sort, because
that's true.
all of those games have that similar design that we talked about on the Lunar episode, where you've got to talk to every person in town and you have to pay attention to the dialogue, because if you don't know where you're supposed to go next. Like, it's not always
that's
clear,
true. That's
right?
true.
And that's every game. Like even like some of the best role-playing games on the Super Nintendo, like Final Fantasy VI, like Chrono Trigger, suffer the same problem, because that was just the game design back then. Even a lot of PS1 role-playing games, or even early PS2 era, like all that stuff kind of is like that too. It wasn't really until the later PS2 era and then kind of the early Xbox 360, PS3 era that you started to see more and more helpful in-game things come about to help point you in the right direction.
Yeah, no, totally agree with that. So I would say, more turn-based games. Personally for me, turn-based and then tactical RPGs for sure hold up more for me than action RPGs during that time period.
Like Shining Force, I think is a great example. Like
Shining Force is great.
Force, I think like because it puts you on the linear path.
Yeah.
And it's like the tactical role playing still really holds up even today.
Yeah.
Yes, there are like little minor things with like the UI with the menus, but beyond that, like you're pretty good to go otherwise.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I think Chrono Trigger holds up pretty well today, especially given the length and kind of the uniqueness of the combat. Is very different than you see anywhere else in that time period. So yeah. I would say.
And I will also mention with Chrono Trigger though that there will be some parts for people who are brand new that you will just have no idea where to go.
You'll need a guide for sure. No, I totally agree. So yeah, what about you, Ryan? What are some big highlighted games that hold up well?
That's the thing. I think it just depends on what your definition of holding up well is, because I think if the combat's very fun and it doesn't, if you don't get lost too easily, I think that's the sign of a game that holds up well. And also, fantastic visual design, I think, goes a long way, which is why a lot of, I think, the Super Nintendo role-playing games or the Sega Genesis role-playing games hold up so well today, because visually speaking, they don't age nearly as poorly as the PS1, PS2 era games do.
Yeah. For sure.
Those games still look really good today, especially if you've got a CRT. Oh boy, they still look amazing.
They look so good. Yeah.
Like Final Fantasy VI. Oh my God, that game is still so fun to play. It's got an amazing story. It's got incredible music. It's got beautiful visuals. You might get lost every once in a while, but besides that, like, just slam dunk, chef's kiss. Like, that's a game that stands the test of time and probably will forever. Again, I feel the same about Shining Force 2. Even more over the first game, because I feel like a lot of the little problems that someone might have with the first game, as far as things that don't hold up as well, are very much improved with the sequel. There are moments, though, because you do have more of an open world to explore in that game, where you could get lost. But if you just keep walking right, you will get to where you're going eventually. That's like that. The game world is designed in a really smart way where you don't really get lost all that often.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think graphically, I think you're right. I think PS1 is probably and Nintendo 64 doesn't have much, but you could say that era right there, it doesn't hold up too well in terms of graphics.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of gameplay,
it's hard to talk about
N64,
Garrett, because there's 2 role-playing games on
I know.
the console. One of them is Quest 64, which we never have to talk about on the show, hopefully.
So, yeah, there you go. I think PS2, when it kind of turns around, I think PS2 is fine.
Yeah.
You can.
I think there are certain games on the PS2 that hold up really well. The Final Fantasy games in particular.
Yeah.
Visually speaking, not necessarily gameplay-wise. But
no. It's Final Fantasy X is just we all have opinions.
Look, the only thing that's worse than Final Fantasy X, Garret, is Final Fantasy X 2.
Oh, I thought you were about to say Final Fantasy VIII, but yeah, I'll take that answer.
No,
as well.
I would take Final Fantasy VIII any day of the week over Final Fantasy X.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so I think those are some good examples. Even something like Parasite Eve, though, Garret, because I feel like even though you had to use a guide for some of the areas, like the Central Park area is very silly, like it's hard to navigate through. Like, I think that's a game that still holds up really well.
No. In terms of gameplay, that is a very interesting mechanic, and I think the mechanic wise of that game, it holds up really well. It's hard to really put my mind in that game as like, oh, this is totally immersive because of the graphics. Yeah. And well, okay, I think I had a disadvantage because I played it on a Vita with the aspect ratio so small that I was squinting my eyes. Yeah. So I don't want to make my experience the one that's, because I'm sure with the PS1 on a CRT TV is much better than what I had.
Or if you played on a HD TV using component cables, I think it's really good too.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think mechanics-wise, a lot of RPGs actually hold up pretty well. Yeah. It's really the graphics of PS1 and some PS2,
and also just getting lost. That's just
and getting
natural part of a lot of those older games. But
yeah.
Anyways, we're gonna move on. We've got Antics, who asks, "Hello, fellow RPG lovers. When opting to tackle through your backlog, do you tend to have a system for whittling down your list, such as prioritizing older games over newer ones, or do you just jump around to whatever game you're feeling at a particular moment? Generally, I end up jumping between a few of them at the same time so I don't get burnt out or too overwhelmed by trying to complete/platinum a game." Which is interesting, because that ties in a little bit to what Nagachaka was mentioning earlier, but then also some stuff that we talked about, Garret, because with my backlog, about half of it is planned out and about half of it is mood. And that's just how that works, where I've got a list of games that, are set up, permanently set up on my console, because I know the day will come where I'll be in the mood for that particular game. And then some of the games, like we talked about earlier, like Sea of Stars and stuff, I like to have like in a specific order, like to give myself goals to actually play through some of these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's probably a good answer. I think I'm pretty similar to that. Of course, I have games that I would like to get to, and that's my backlog. But I think my mood recently, or my mindset of it was more, what am I in the mood for now? What do I need to get to? And especially with, just watching the Fallout TV series, I was like, oh, I need to play Fallout in some way to get in the mood of it. So I've been playing some 76. I played some 3. But I haven't really like saying, oh, I'm dedicating to one game to go through. So yeah, I kind of just jump around a little bit. I wouldn't say I would call that a backlog. It's just more like a play session. I want to kind of relive my memory through, in that case, Fallout. But that's what I do. I kind of just like, when I set my mind to it and I want to get into a game and finishing it, I am dead set on that game and I want to finish it. And then after I think I finish a game, I do like a palate cleanser. It's like, okay, let me play this other game for like maybe an hour, or a familiar game for like a few hours, and then, or maybe do a smaller indie game and finish that, and then get back into a bigger game later on. That's what I kind of do.
It's a good way to do it. It's like, you're right. Like, I don't want to get too RPG'd out. So a lot of times, like when I finish a big role-playing game, like the first thing I'll play isn't another role-playing game, but it's usually like a Contra Operation Galuga, or like jump into some Mega Man games or something like that. Like playing some video game comfort food, like platformers or stuff like that. Like going back and playing some old games like that. Like that's what I usually like to do, is palate cleansers. Nice. Well, next up we got Savoy Prime, who asks, welcome back, Dr. Bland. Question for the show. Do you fellas think that Atlus will ever just release one game in its final form and stop messing around with what they are known for? Most recent example, of course, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Keep on preaching the good word of the greatest genre in video games, RPGs. Have a great show, y'all. So, yeah, because we got that news, Garrett, that Shin Megami Tensei 5 and that DLC is being delisted. The OG one. Which makes sense, though, when you think about it, because they don't want people to mistakenly buy the DLC for Vengeance, even though they don't have to. Like, that makes sense.
My feeling with it. I just, my argument with it back is just, you have Persona 5 in stores. And I'm not saying, they're different. Of course they're different. I know Persona 5 and 5 Royal are different. I'm just saying the names are just one word difference, and they're essentially the same game. You're doing the same thing with Shin Megami Tensei 5. Yes, I don't want a new player to get the base game of this, and rather than Vengeance, and get confused. But
what if they want to, though? Like, what if they want to play the base game? Like, there should the option.
Well, you could play the base game in Vengeance then.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they're doing this, because literally the whole game of Shin Megami Tensei 5 is literally in Vengeance. Just some extra demons and quality of life improvements, or, just the very minuscule improvements rather than the base game. Now, at least for me and just early adopters, it's just like, it kind of sucks because, like, oh, do I really want the DLC? Not really. I'm looking at this pass and it's like $26, and it's not like and Atlas DLC. Well, it just depends. But really, generally, Atlas DLC is not like it's not expansions. It's not like, oh, this grand adventure or whatever. It's just like, here's an extra dungeon. Here's some costumes. Here's some easier stuff to do. That's pretty much it, what they do with this game. So, yeah, it kind of sucky for early adopters in general. I think, personally, just because we just don't have an upgrade path for this Vengeance edition. I have to pay $60 to basically buy the game again. That's what I'm doing. So, but I won't do it. I'll just kind of vote with my wallet and say I'm not doing this, and I'll wait for a while.
Well, especially considering your whole journey with Shin Megami Tensei 5 anyway.
Yeah, it was arduous. The
chances of you ever going back to playing that DLC, unlikely.
Yeah, very unlikely. And then also, the chances of me even replaying the game in a different, well, I think Vengeance has another route too, like another half of it. It's just like, man, I gotta be in a serious mood to get through a game like that again. It's just, but that it's not it right now. So yeah. Now, as far as Savoy Prime's question, will Atlas ever, deliver the final form of it? I think my understanding, and Kevin brought this up, it was a great point, is that they kind of announced that they're wanting to do more DLC and expansions in general with their games.
They already kind of said that this is kind of the last one like this.
Yeah. So, and you see obviously with Persona 3 Reload, they're having the episode, I guess, kind of later on this year. And so I can imagine them doing something like that. But at the same time, Atlas is going to Atlas, and they're going to just do what they want to do. And you saw the difference between 5 and 5 Royal. It's very different. So I can totally see them make a complete edition of Persona 6 that you won't have a DLC for Persona 6.
I think the difference is going to be when Persona 6 rolls around. I think what's going to end up happening is that they will make whatever the expansion content is, like just an expansion pack, but then they will release like a complete edition kind of like what a lot of people do with like their Game of the Year editions.
Yeah, that's the hope, and
that's the sense I'm getting from what they talked about.
I wish S&T 5 was the same deal, but it's not. So
no, I think it was just probably too far along that they couldn't pull out.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because it's because there's not really like, it makes sense why they're doing it this way. It sucks, but that is kind of what
it's just how it is with these games. So,
but also like a lot of people that are going to be playing Vengeance are just going to be people who are playing the game for the first time. So. Yeah, it's not going to be a lot of people.
Unless you're a very hardcore Shin Megami Tensei fan. Yes, You're right.
Well, not only that, but like you have to think about it. Like this is coming to every platform under the sun now.
Yeah,
so
that's
a lot
true.
of people just didn't have access to it before unless you played it on Switch specifically.
Yeah,
I think that plays a big part in it.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, I'm looking forward to in 2 years, Garrett, Metaphor Refantasioed. Of course, the second version of Metaphor Refantazio. It's gonna be great.
Are we gonna Fantasio again?
Fantasioed. Just throw it all that on there then. But next up, we got Rybo's question. Rybo asks, question for the show: what would you buy if you didn't spend all the money on games that just ended up in your backlogs?
That's a good question. A house, maybe.
Yeah. Please, you live in San Francisco. Could you really buy a house there?
Not really. It's pretty much unaffordable. But I don't know, to be honest with you. I actually really have slowed down on buying games the past, I would say, year. Like I really like, of course I see the sales a lot. And if there's a game I really, really would like, and I would probably grab it. But like really for the most part, I asked the question to myself, okay, if I get this now, will I play it now? And the answer is always no. And so it's just like, okay, I'm not going to get this now. And so yeah, the money, what would I do with it? Probably get a new PC. If I didn't spend all that much on, I would say the past 10 years, I could easily get a very good PC. If I did spend all that money on backlog games. But,
okay.
Yeah. What about you?
That's a good way to do it. Because I also live in an expensive area because I live in Toronto and all the houses here are $2 million plus. So I ain't buying a house with that money. But instead, what I would probably do is actually like what people don't maybe know too much about me. I am a huge movie collector. I'm a huge movie buff. So I love movies, Garrett, and I have a fairly sizable 4K Blu-ray collection. That would just get infinitely bigger if I wasn't buying these games, if I wasn't buying all these backlog games. Mm-hmm. So I would buy all the horror movie releases because that's just who I am, Garrett. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe I need a second copy of Chopping Mall on Blu-ray. You never know.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone may need a copy of Sleepaway Camp 3. Unhappy cappers. Maybe that's just the world we live in. So there you go.
Love it.
All right, last question of the show comes to us from Skycatcher Gaming, who asks, Working through one of my backlog games right now, Dragon's Crown Pro. I'm not the
Nice.
final boss, but I need to level up a bit. By the way, Scott Catcher Gaming, if you need help, just give me a ring. I can just come in there with my Amazon and we can kick some butt against that final boss. But anyways, moving on. Next up, I'm really thinking hard about finishing Final Fantasy VII, the original. My question for the show for y'all, though, how many games in your backlog have you started and you plan on seriously getting back into? We answered that a little bit. But are there any notable ones? And what is the reason why you dropped some of your backlog games?
Yeah.
A lot of times when I drop a backlog games, because I'll just speak in general terms here, because we talked about specific examples earlier. That when I think about dropping a backlog game, it's usually because I'm not enjoying it at that point in time, whether it's the mood or whether there's something that's specific about the game itself that I'm not really enjoying. Like if I'm not having fun, I'm not going to force myself to play something I'm not enjoying for the sake of playing it. That's just how I've always kind of played games in a lot of ways. If I'm having fun though, then I'm always going to, keep playing through it. Like Dead Space Remake is a great example of this, because Dead Space Remake, great game. People love that game. But when I picked it up and started playing it, I was not in the mood for a game like that. So I got maybe 2 hours in and I was like, I am not feeling this. Not because I'm not enjoying the game, but I was not like in the mode for like a space horror game. Because it came out in January of all time.
Yeah, of course. Not October.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm putting this game down and I don't know when I'm coming back to you. But it's not, whenever I'm in the mood for like a space horror game, that's when Dead Space Remake will come back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's many games that I kind of went through and kind of stopped playing, intending to go back. I mean, and it's one of those, like, when I kind of leave a game or skip a game or whether, it really just depends for me. I think I've been a little bit more, this time around, a little bit more defined or assertive. Like, okay, I'm stopping this game because of X reason. Maybe I'll go back to it. There's some games like I'm done. And I think Dragon's Dogma 2 is a great example for me. Is like I parked it, and maybe if I'm in the mood to get back into it, I can, but I really am waiting on it if they kind of just move the needle on something, because it's just a little too inaccessible to me. There's just a little bit too vagueness. It's just kind of missing the mark for me. But like I'm trying to think of other games. Like a Dragon is because I just got stuck, and I honestly don't know if I'll ever go back to it or restart it at this point. Maybe if I'm in the mood. I could be in the mood for this deranged Japanese culture kind of Dragon Quest RPG game, and
that's one that's been constantly parked on my hard drive for a long time too. Like whenever I'm in the mood to give it another chance, I want to.
Yeah. For me, it's just like that. It's like it depends on it's a game to game basis for me.
Yeah, there's no like example. Like there's no like perfect like process to this. Like every game's different.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for all the questions tonight. The NPCs really came out tonight, Garrett. So shout out to the NPCs, the non-podcast characters. But speaking of shout outs, Garrett, got to give shout outs to all of our friends over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can find all of his music over at Purple Monkey Entertainment in the link tree, linktr.ee/PME/JIB. And also Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are in fact Xenobabes. Links to all of our ultimate producers can always be found in the show notes of this podcast. Our platinum producers are Robby Bobby Miller, Tim Paullin, and Smokin Joe. And our gold members, Adam K, Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, BobLoblaw, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CowboyDangerD, CrocoKyle, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Emily O'Kelly, Jan32, Patrice Mallette, Peje EP, Shane Erickson, Tech Mike, shout out to Tech Mike, the newest addition to the gold tier.
Nice.
Tim Aulph, and Toxic. Huge thank you once again to all of our friends over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to hop in the car and choose the tier that's right for you, head on over there and you find a smorgasbord of content like the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, the real podcast, and a whole lot more. And now Garrett plugs go.
You can follow me at Twitter at Blind Explosion. You can also find me on the Discord. I am reading all your messages on the RPG Cave channel. I see you. I see all of you reading
Sometimes
them.
it becomes unwieldy.
Yeah, all the time. I do want to mention, I'm wearing the Xbox Drive shirt for sure, and I think I put out my thoughts about this. It kind of, big blow up in Xbox land right now, closing of 4 Bethesda studios. I think we won't get in depth with this here. It's not really the show, but it's just like really for me, it's like it kind of sucks that Arcane Austin and Tango are going away. So I am playing their games for the immediate future. Just kind of I want to get through them. Those were in my backlog as well. So Prey, Evil Within 1 and 2, and Ghostwire Tokyo. And check out Redfall, see how it is. That's kind of the big games I need to get through. I replayed Hi-Fi Rush earlier this year, which was fantastic. And I definitely just, I really feel for those studios, so especially those two. I think they just got cut by corporate decisions, not really their fault, really. So, but that's just how. This is how the world works, how the business works. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. So, there you go. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. I will also mention as well, I was on Project X Talk with Kevin Ainsworth last week with Captain Logan. We talked about that for like an hour and a half. So
yeah, you could talk about that forever. So
I was going to say, if you want to know my full thoughts on that subject, go listen over there. Also, I love that you showed that shirt, Garrett, because I just realized I put 2 and 2 together. That was so long ago that they're 10 episodes away from 350.
My goodness, really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize how that long
Xbox
ago.
Drive 350 is coming up very soon. I'm curious to know if the Xbox Drive crew is going to do something specific for Xbox Drive 360, which is like in
I love it.
It's in like 20 weeks, so it'll be this year.
No.
It'll be this year.
Definitely. That'd be cool.
As for me, you can find me on the old Twitter, aka X, at Ryan Turford. You can also find us on X at Carpool Gaming, right here, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, podcast services around the globe. So, for Garrett Bland, I'm Ryan Turford. This has been the 137th level of the RPG Cave, and we're out.
Bye-bye.